dear guests, on behalf of the Publications Office of the European Union, welcome to this second workshop dedicated to the reusers of TED. My name is Manuela Cruz. I'm the head of the TED and EU Procurement Unit at the Publications Office, and we are very happy to have with us today the Director General of the Office, Hilde Hardeman, for the welcome address. So Hilde, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Manuela, and good morning, dear guests. A very warm welcome to this workshop for TED reusers. Manuela already introduced me. My name is Hilde Hardeman. I'm the office's Director General, and together with Manuela and her team, we're really very happy to have you with us today. This workshop is important for us. We will share with you the latest news about major milestones in public procurement data. We will talk about the new TED website, about e-forms, about the new semantic web services of TED, and about the public procurement data space. Now, as you know, the TED website will soon get a new enhanced shape. We gave you a glimpse of what it could be when we met with you last September. And now is the time to update you on where we are today. The new TED website will make full use of the information provided through e-forms. E-forms bring more data, more accurate data, better data. And at the Publications Office, we have been ready to publish e-forms since 14 November of last year. Today, these e-forms are visible in TED. The new TED website will have enhanced search capabilities, which means that our site will provide better access to more and better, more accurate data. Now, good procurement data provides the answer to 4 simple questions. Who buys, what, from whom, for how much? E-forms and the new TED combined will do exactly that. We, you and us will be able to provide better services to our customers, better services to foster competition, to promote business, and to improve transparency in the use of public money. Reusers, you, play a key role in disseminating procurement data. You are therefore important partners in this challenge. Those e-forms are quite complex. They come with a new format, UBL. Information is structured in a different way. And as we told you when we met last year, we, that is us, at the Publications Office, Manuela and her team, we adapted our systems and applications to publish e-forms. And you, reusers of TED data, had to adapt your systems and working methods to be able to get this data in this new format and process it. And now comes the time to make use of the enhanced capabilities of the new TED website and start benefiting from our joint work. My colleagues will give you an exclusive preview of the new site. But there is more. They will also introduce you to the future semantic web services of TED. These will offer TED data as truly linked open data with all the potential for reuse that only linked open data can give. Now, if we say linked open data, we say public procurement data space. The public procurement data space, which we are building, will bring together public procurement data from a variety of sources that are today dispersed, from EU and national sources. The data space will provide a common platform that can be exploited through a set of analytical services and tools. This means that this data space will open up a world of new opportunities for you and for your customers. And we are here to provide services, publishing services and data services. We are here to provide services to you, to answer to your needs and your concerns. Clearly, we must understand your needs and your concerns so that we can try to address them in the best possible way. Today's workshop is an excellent moment to do so. We want to hear from you, and we also trust that you will find answers to many of your questions today. As usual, we also welcome your feedback and your questions through our help desk. And now I wish you an excellent day and the most fruitful workshop. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Hilde, for this kind introduction. So we will now take from here, and I will give you an overview of what is going to happen today. I will give you some clarification about how we are going to move on. And I will start with the reason why we are here today. As Hilde mentioned, I will give a few words about the scope of today's meeting, and I will finish with a bit of pragmatic on the organization of the works. So the reason we are here today is change. The new e-forms are there, and this brings change. The new TED website will be there, and this will this will mean change as well. So our workshop is about e-forms and is about TED and is about e-forms in the new TED. It follows, as Hilde just mentioned, the previous workshop that we had last September, when we mainly addressed the question of e-forms. Now we will look much more closely to the TED website and how e-forms will be handled in the TED website, and how data can be retrieved from the TED website. So as you know, what we publish in TED, we publish according to standard procurement forms. The Commission adopted in 2019 a new regulation on standard procurement forms, the e-forms regulation. The regulation started to apply from the 14th of November of 2022. With e-forms, the structure of the information, the content of the forms changes, and this has already been reflecting in the current TED. We know that all these changes have an impact on the reusers of TED data, and that's why we are trying to reach out and to provide as much information as possible so that you can get some support during this transition. And as Hilde just pointed out, we would like to understand your needs, your concerns, so that we can try to address them accordingly. So this is the reason why we are here, change, how to manage change. The scope of today's meeting, we will talk about what changed since we met last September, and we will address a number of aspects. So I will indicate to you briefly what is the content of today's. I will start by referring that our target audience today is the reusers of TED data. That means the users that take data from TED, process it, and then produce a result that goes beyond the information that is merely published in TED. And this can be because you want to provide priced services or free of charge services, because you want to produce reports, because you need this data for analytical purposes, for academic purposes, for investigative purposes. Anyway, you take the data and you reuse it for a purpose that goes beyond the mere publication. As we said last year, we do not have a register of the TED users or reusers. Access to TED website is free. In line with the European Strategy for Data, access is open, and if it's open, is unrestricted. We do not request identification for access to TED. It means that it's a challenge somehow to identify the reusers. We try to do so by seeing from the questions addressed to the help desk if they are addressed by people who reuse the data. we try to look around and see if anyone declares in websites, for example, that they are reusing that data. And last time when we met, we asked you whether you would be interested to be kept informed about future events of this kind. Some of you may have said yes, and that's why you are also here today. Of course, we are open to any suggestions about how to make sure that we can reach out as much as possible and as well as possible to the ones that are reusing the data that is published in TED. Now, about what changed since last September. As you may remember, last September, we mainly focused on e-forms. There were presentations on e-forms in general, on e-forms in TED, the new TED schema, and there was already a glimpse about how to retrieve data from TED and how to reuse e-forms. What's new since we met last September is that the D-Day for implementing e-forms has come. So on the 14th of November, our systems were ready to receive, process, and publish e-forms in the current TED, in the TED website that we all know for the time being. In the meanwhile as well, there was an amendment to the e-forms regulation, and there is another amendment being prepared. We started getting e-forms for publication in TED. You may have noticed that this has been coming progressively, but surely. So we started with one of the Commission Director Generals sending notices in e-forms format for publication. Then one of the Austrian e-senders, the tobacco monopoly, has started sending notices as well. And in May, more recently, on the 15th of May, Estonia has fully switched into e-forms. So nowadays, all the notices that come from Estonia are e-forms notices purely. We also got one notice from Spain, one notice from Malta. We see that there is movement around e-forms and around sending notices in e-forms format. We still do not have the new TED website up and running. It will come hopefully in October. Last time we said that it might come during the summer. As we all know, IT projects sometimes take some delay. The latest update is that in principle, the new TED website will be there up and running in October, and in October as well, e-forms will become mandatory. That means that from the 25th of October, we will only be publishing e-forms notices, and that's it. We will still make available the current notices, of course. They will still be, it will still be possible to retrieve, to visualize the current notices in the current format. But in terms of publication, it will be e-forms only from October. So what are we going to talk about today? We are going to focus indeed on the new TED portal. My colleagues George and Carmelo will give you a glimpse, an overview of what's coming up, the main features, the changes as compared to the current TED, and we'll also explain how to extract data for reuse. And then in the afternoon, we will talk about the TED semantic web service and about the public procurement data space. We will have a special guest from our colleagues, from one of our colleagues from DG Growth, that will talk about the public procurement data space. We tried as much as possible to listen to reflect upon the comments that you have been providing us and the ones that were provided during the last meeting. And you will see that during the day, colleagues will address them, but just to give you a couple of examples. When we met last time, we mentioned that we have what we call a software development kit. We call it SDK, which is a set of resources that we have been developing for ourselves to make sure that our own applications can be properly developed and that we made available to all, together with the relevant documentation. Obviously, in September, when we met, the SDK was not as complete as it is today. It has been improving, so it's stable. It's a stable tool that we truly invite people to use and reuse, and obviously is getting better by the day. We are improving it. We are enriching it. There were issues about the API documentation that was not available or not to the extent that you would like to see at the time. Now we have managed to have it done. Actually, since November last year, it's there. There were questions about the SparkQL endpoint. I suppose that you will have the questions addressed during the presentation given by Yanis on the TED Semantic Web Service. Someone was mentioning the need for a guide to have access to all data from TED. I must say that we are trying to make as much information and documentation available as possible. There is a limitation to what we can do in terms of time and in terms of resources, but we are trying to do as much as possible. Someone was mentioning also the interest of appointing someone that would be able to manage the reusers in the same way as we manage the e-senders. So as you know, we have a special relation to the ones who send notices for publication. We would like to have a similar relation to the ones that actually retrieve the data that is published. We will try to think of ways to reinforce this relation. And of course, if you have any suggestions, good ideas, we will definitely look into them and try to see what we can do. So after having set the scene for what is going to happen today, just a couple of words on practical aspects of the organization. The workshop is fully online, as you know. As with any online event, there may be some hiccups, sound cuts, and so on. So we apologize in advance. However, we have, as usual, a super support team behind us. So hopefully all issues will be sorted out quickly. Some housekeeping rules. As usual, please keep your microphones shut. Please turn off your cameras. If you have any questions, please use Slido. My colleagues will certainly publish the link to Slido very shortly, both in the chat and yes, I see that the support team is really extraordinary. I say it and immediately it happens. So it's really great. So any questions, please send them through Slido. We will go through the Slido questions in chronological order, just to make it easier for us to make sure that we cover absolutely everything. Please use Slido, avoid using the chat. It's not that we are going to ignore anything that comes through the chat. However, we will give preference to what comes through Slido. It's a question of organization and discipline to make sure that we make sure to reply to everything that is being asked. If anything remains to be replied at the end, we will make sure that we will provide the answers. And if you have any questions after, of course, you are free to send them to us through the help desk if they are general questions, or through the GitHub discussion forum if they are specifically technical. Okay, just to make sure that we get the answers in the questions in the right channels and you get the right answers. So we will have today, as I said, two sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. The morning one will finish at around 12 Central European Time. We will break for lunch. We will resume at 14 Central European Time, and we will finish hopefully by 16. Presentations will be published in the meeting website. There is usually a question about that, so we anticipate they will be there. And we will publish as well the summary of the questions and answers in the form of minutes of this meeting, but actually it's just a summary of the questions and the answers. And you may have noticed that the same happened for the previous version of the workshop. You have the questions and answers published in the respective workplace in the meeting website. I covered all my points, except that we will also be asking a couple of questions, and we will also be using Slido. So my colleagues will launch the first questions in a second. And at the end of the day, we will also ask you some questions, and then there will be a survey just for us to measure the level of satisfaction of the clients who are you today, and to get hints for improvements for next time. So thank you all for being here, and I would ask my colleagues to launch the first Slido questions. So Mariella, the floor is now to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Manuela, for handing over. And good morning to you all. So let's now start. We would like to find out more about you today. So let's start with the first slide of question. What type of entity do you represent or do you work for? You have alternatives here. So a private company would be the first answer, public entity, or other. Please place your answer. We see that the vast majority of you actually come from private company. 9% represents the public entity, and we see a 7% coming from other sectors. Thank you very much for your first answer. Second question, thank you to my colleague. What is your field of activity? Already the first reply is displayed. So we have economic operator, public entity, other, we have press, and also academia. And we see that for the moment, 60% of you come from economic, represent the economic operators. We have a 21% represent a public entity. Other is the 20% of you. We have a press with a 4%. And apparently, at the moment, is 0% from academia. Thank you very much. So we move forward with the third slide question. What do you do with the TED data? We would really like to find out the way you use that data. So I provide that services. I use it for policy purposes. I conduct audits or monitor capital procurement. I conduct scientific or academic research, or I do investigative journalism, and also a further option for other. And 77% apparently provide paid services, so the vast majority in this case. We also have 8% of you using the data for policy purposes, and also for audits and monitored capital procurement. Thank you very much. Now, we would like to find how we would like to find out how often do you fetch data from TED? Every day, a few times a year, every week, every month, or never. 85% uses data on a daily basis. namely the vast majority, 10% a few times per year, 6% every week. And of course, all of you use that data, so we see that the option never is the 0% actually. Next question, please. How do you consume tech data? Through FTP, API, or TED website, RSS feed, CSV subsets on data.europa.eu. The first option, FTP, apparently is used by the majority of you, namely the 49%. 29% through API, the 20% consume TED data through TED website, and the 2% through RAS feed. So vast majority opt for FTP. And thank you. Let's move forward then. For how long have you been consuming TED data in this case? More than 4 years, less than 1 year, between 1 and 4 years, and 73%, now 75, about 75%, is saying that consume data is consuming data since more than 4 years. Between 1 and 4 years, only the 60%, and less than 1 year, only the 7%. Thank you very much. Next question. How would you describe your level of awareness as regards e-forms? Thank you for placing your answer already. We now see through this visualization of data that the 33% of you is, let's say, quite aware as regards e-forms. We have level 1 representing the completely unaware level, and 5 very aware. So 39% for the moment declares to be quite aware, level 3 in this case, and 27% very aware as regards e-forms. Only 5% of you apparently is not very aware. Very good information. Thank you for participating.
Thanks a lot, Mariela, for launching this.
Thank you. I hand over to you now.
For launching the questions. Thank you all for answering. I've seen a number of questions in the chat. Of course, these are indicative. We are looking for indicative information, so we do not expect to have very detailed and clear data, but we find it interesting to have an indication of who the audience does with the data. Even the question about how aware you are of e-forms, it's how comfortable you feel with e-forms, how knowledgeable you think you are about e-forms, not whether you just simply know that e-forms exist or not. But again, thank you for bearing with our questions and trying to reply to the best of your capacity. That's very useful for us. We are perfect in terms of timing. Thank you, Mariela, because this was perfectly on spot. And it's time now that I give the floor to my colleague, George Bernardos, who I can already see on screen. And he will guide us through a walkthrough from the new TED website, the new features and what changes. George, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Try to give you a short and concise, hopefully, presentation of new TEDs. And this time it will be using screenshots or figures from the real system compared to the mockups and the things that we showed you last time. Some of the information may already be known to you. I mean, because it might have been discussed or presented last September. What I have to say is that TED itself actually does not change in terms of functionality. Functionally, okay, it will continue to be the site to publish on a daily basis the OJS, so the supplement to the official journal, so the EU public procurement notices. Offer supporting functionalities around it, like search, display of the notice, the translation, the machine translation. And what actually changes is that the look and feel, the underlying technology used, which should be transparent to you, and some tools that we have, and they will improve or evolve. Okay. I have to say that this presentation is mainly from the TED user, let's say, perspective, not the user. Okay, so because it will show the functionalities of TED itself. But I think it's a good thing for everybody to know, and of course the details and the more, let's say, fruitful information about the user or the use of data will come in the next presentations that will follow. So the things that we will cover is the implementation status as we speak today. We have seen one similar last time. What the new TED portal brings. We'll see the homepage, we see the OJS release calendar, as we say, the functionalities around the user account, the browse by options, the search results, and the notice view. Okay, I mean, here it's, as I said, functionally, things are the same. We'll see how they look, how they have been restructured, or what may have changed in between.
George, allow me to interrupt, but
yes?
You are not sharing your presentation yet.
Ah, sorry. But now?
Now it's there. Thank you.
Okay, it's always funny with these virtual presentations because it's, you lose the feeling of the audience and what is actually happening. Okay, I think for the first slide it was introduction that it was show it. Okay, and if I more or less what I said about it, then this is the agenda that I spoke about. Let me just one moment to kill this because it seems that it causes the problem. Okay, now these are the topics that I said that we will cover. And let's move to the first one, which is the project implementation status. So as we speak today, we are currently running what is called the user acceptance testing. So we are heavily testing from the user perspective, the new portal. This is an ongoing task. We hope that it will finish in the coming weeks, in order for after that to start what we call the parallel run. Okay, parallel run means that for you, the current sites will be available, the current TED, but in parallel, for us, it will be the new sites operational, just for us, it will not be publicly available. It will be fed with the same information and the same data like the current one. So we will be able to see and check whether everything is working fine or not. And the data are updated, the information is there, the functionalities work, etc. Okay. The successful culmination of the parallel run will lead to the shift to the go live, okay? Which means that at some point in time, and as we speak today, at some point middle of October 2023, under TED.europa.eu, you will see the new TEDs up and running for you, okay? That's what happens. That's what's the current situation. We say middle of October because, like Manuela said already, with IT projects or software development, things can be a bit volatile or change. So there may be a further shift to that date. Okay. Now, what the new TED portal brings and what I call behind the scenes is for the technological, let's say, more or less part, that it's somehow invisible to the end user. However, it affects or enhances the functionality that the end user sees. Okay. So the new TED has a state-of-the-art enterprise search engine. Okay. The current one is okay, but it's old. It has an old technology that somehow also was blocking us to improve or to further expand the functionalities offered, particularly at the search domain. So with the new TED, we have the option to index. So this means to make searchable, if we want, all the notice fields, okay? Which means that particularly in the expert search, but also in the advanced search or in the API, we have the possibility to add new search fields that it was not possible to be done today. So today, not all the information that exists in the procurement notices was exploitable search-wise. On top of it, we have a new enterprise web content management platform introduced. The current TED didn't have a WCMS, or a web content management system. The new one will have. With whatever this means in terms of the possibility to offer new web content fast and in a friendly way. Now, in front of the scene, so what you will see, guys, a big, let's say, change or novelty of the new TED is that they will stop to exist two sites, the TED and CMAP websites that are exist today. Okay, so TED for you, it's what is under the TED.europa.eu, which gives access to the online version of the official journal, the supplement of the official journal with the public procurement notices. But there was also the CMAP, which is mainly an editorial content website that gives generic information or data or help or links to things related or to information related to EU public procurement. Now, these things will become one, and everything will be under TED.europa.eu when the new TED goes live. On top of it, there will be the new TED will have a totally revamped user interface, new look and feel, improved navigation, full responsiveness, and also conformance to the accessibility guidelines level AA. For those that may know Eurolex, so the other big site that the Publications Office manages and publishes the EU law, you will see similarities between the new TED and Eurolex in the look and feel. Furthermore, increased the use of code lists in the new TEDs. This also derives or relates to the fact that e-forms use more code lists compared to the current TED schema notices forms, as we say, or the current standard procurement forms, or the old standard procurement. The setting of alerts in general will be made easier or more intuitive compared to what is happening in the current TEDs. That's at a high level. Now, let's go to the details. And here I would have to say something that, because there will be in the slides, you will see some screenshots. As I said, and since we are at the UAT phase, there may be some slight differences in the end product when it goes live. Okay, and when I say slight, I mean there can be a label that may be different at the end product compared to what you see in the slides, in the screenshots of this presentation, or a position of the link and things like this. But as I said, functionally, things are there and do not change. So the homepage itself. The homepage is fully redesigned compared to the current one. It serves as an introduction to the site's content offering. And when we say site's content is the business part, or let's say the information of the data of the public procurement notices, or the editorial things and the editorial information, which was what mainly was covered by the current, or is covered by the current CMAP website. Okay, structurally, let's say it's split in three parts. The main section, or the middle, the biggest part of the page, is the main navigation menu with the features and services of TED. There is a header that includes mainly the login information, but also the possibility to change languages. And there is a footer part with whatever is put usually in the footer, you know, other important information or links, etc., to other sites and things like this. You will see it in the next screen. If it moves, yes. I would like to apologize, first of all, at this point, because there will be similar slides like this, where we have on the left-hand side the current TED screenshot, and on the right-hand side the new one, and it's a bit condensed. I don't know how good it's in terms of visibility, but I will try also to show you, or to guide you around. So this is the old TED, so the current TED. This is the new homepage, how it will look like. Okay. So I will go in further details in the next screens, but just to say that this was the header part that I was talking about. This is the main part with all the features and services that TED will offer, and this is the footer part. Okay.
Again, George, I
Yes?
think that you're not sharing anything.
Click.
We can see yourself.
But someone else was sharing.
Now, yes, now we can indeed see the.
So in which slide did you?
So we are in the page old versus new homepage.
That was the one that you saw, or you didn't see before? Wait a second. Okay, so let's stay there here, which is the main thing. So what I was saying is that this is the old, this is the new. The part of the top is the header part that I already said. It's the login options and the change of language. This is the main part with all the functionalities and the features of the new TED. And this is the footer part with the links, etc., to other useful information or to other sites. Okay, a key point here to see is that this part is somehow groups all the sets options that the new TED offers, compared to this small box here that we have currently, that is what we call quick search. There is no left-hand column like before, because all the information has come here in the middle. The position of the JS calendar has changed. There is the possibility to have a banner at the top. As you can see, there are no tabs anymore here. Here it was a tab of TED, CMAP, notices, tendering. Now everything is gone here with links. But I think we will see the details in the next slides if we move on. So the header, as usual, it includes the website logo, the login information. So this is here, where now it is not just the sign in, but when you are signed in, you can see here that you will have the option to go to your My Dashboard or Preferences, compared to the current one that was some options, some links on the left-hand side. Yes, a note here is that this, like the footer, most probably is not the final one, because currently in the publications office we are revising the structure and the look and feel, more or less, of the header of the footer for all our websites. So this, what you see here, might slightly be different at the end product when it goes live. Okay. Then, okay, here is a key difference, let's say, compared to the current TED. So this box with which represents the quick search, and below the different options of search that the new TED will offer. Okay, so you see there is a button for advanced search that leads you to the advanced search page, a button for the expert search that leads you to the expert search corresponding page, and of course the browse by subject, which is now a drop-down menu that gives you the three options, whereas in the current TED there was on the left-hand side link to it. Okay, as part of this presentation, I will not go further into details about how search works, because it will be presented by one of the brains, as I say, of the new TED, my colleague Carmelo, and later by Yanis for the semantic web service, which will give more details about the search capabilities as related to the reuse, which mainly concerns you. Then, yes, the point here, this search, let's say, frame, if we can call it like this, is visible in all the TED pages. Okay, so wherever you are in the new TED, you will have the option to execute a quick search, or to go to advanced search, expert search, or the browse by topics. Now, as I said, CMAP, which is what you see, if you can see it well on the left-hand side, ceases to exist. It is merged and becomes part of the new TED. Okay, so all the information that exists in the current CMAP will somehow fall in specific groups or sections of the new TED. Okay, the same applies for the boxes that you see here that we're linking to or opening the pages of these applications that have been moved as links on the under the publisher's corner. I'm talking about the notices, e-senders tool, which is the e-send tool, e-tendering, etc. Then the home page, further things. You see, for example, that the map that exists in the current home page is not anymore in the new one. The release calendar that exists on the top left is moved now in the middle and becomes quite more visible. The different parts, like the contracts awarded by the EU institutions, are moved now under a group that is called Statistics on EU Notices. The RSS feeds move in a separate place that under the Open Data Group. The link that we have here to eService and ESPD move in a different place in a box that is called See Also. So again, as I said before, functionality is there, the options are there, they are restructured in the new TED. Let's see a bit more the release calendar, because here, apart from the look and feel, we added also some functionalities, meaning that in the current release calendar, you can always stay on the current year. So as you see here, you can play with the months of the current year, you cannot go back. In the new TED, you will have the option to see the release calendars for whoever this is useful of the previous years, okay, per month. Second, you will have also the option to export or download, as we say here, the annual release calendar in Excel, PDF, or CSV format. So you can get the 2023 release calendar printed in PDF if you want, or in Excel or CSV if you want to reuse it for whatever else you might have. It's options that didn't exist or do not exist in the current TED. The user account. As I said, the My Dashboard becomes the link under the sign-in information that is here on the top. Here we separated the my search alerts. In the current edit, it was not easy to see what are your current search alerts. Now it's a different box, but you can see it here. So it's easier for the user to track and see what alerts he or she has defined. We'll see later how this is done. Then more or less the actions drop-down boxes offer the same functionalities like currently. And that's it, apart from, of course, the look and feel overall change. Further to the user account, so the user profile and the update EU login information that exists as links in the current ads. Now it has become part of the user account information. What was in what you could the user preferences have been moved under the site preferences link, and the same applies for the personal address book. Again, functionally things stay the same. There has been a restructure on where exactly how you can access the specific functionality, and as I said, as always, the look and feel. Let's go to to some parts of the search predefined, let's say, search options that we offer in the new tab, and which exists also in the current tab. So the browse by subject. So the one option is the business opportunity. Browse by business opportunities. You see in the new tab we have two columns. We have one column on the left-hand side that groups the business opportunities, and then the actual business opportunities on the right-hand side. These things work like in the current tab, more like facets, meaning that if there are results, which is always the case because there is so many data in the intent, the options are shown with a corresponding number of results in parentheses. If there is no result, nothing is shown. Okay, so the line is not there. As you can see, the filtering by country has been removed, and actually it's been removed from also from the browse by CPV that we will see in the later slide, because of the fact that it has been enhanced in the current end, that I will show you in the slides that come by. Just to explain a bit more the grouping. The grouping on this side actually groups options that we have here. Okay, I mean the corresponding ones and the applicable ones. So, for example, the business registration information that we see here actually groups the European company, European Cooperative Society notice, and the European Economic Interest Grouping notice. Okay, that's how this grouping works, and it's up to the user whether he clicks here and got something larger in terms of scope, or goes to the more specific on this using this site, the options of this column. The browse by the CPV. Okay, so again, it's more or less the same like it is today. The only thing is that there is no option to filter by country at this screen here. Okay. The place of performance, the browse by subject, the place of performance. Okay, here this is where the map has been moved. Okay, whereas before it was in the home page. It still offers the option to the user to search for notices using directly on the map. I mean, clicking on the specific country, or by selecting a location from a list here, in which also we offer the option to filter by, I mean, to start writing something and search, and you will get the corresponding country to click directly. Yes, so here is the search results page. So this is the current one, this is the new one. Apart again from the look and feel, a key change is that we added more facets. Okay, I assume that what facets means is known to all, meaning that it is a way to drill down further to the results, okay, depending on the search query that the user executed. So here we have more options compared to what is offered today. And that's what I was telling that about the country, because one of the options now is the country of the buyer. So selecting something from the screens that we saw before of the browse by subject or the browse by CPV, you will get a page like this. And then if you're going to go to the country level, you can choose from the facets here and drill down further if the user wants to. Then again, the functionalities are more or less the same. They have been repositioned. Briefly speaking, we have an edit search here, which is a refined search. Actually, you can edit again the query that you have executed, be it in advanced search or in expert search, depending on what was chosen, and add or remove criteria, search criteria. The save search, which saves this specific search in my save searches of the user's dashboard. There is the possibility to download the notices selected. So here you can select one or more notices from the search results and download them by using this button in PDF in the browsing language. So in the language that I use for the search, for the display, sorry, or just get the PDF of the official language of the specific notice, which is a timestamp PDF, or in XML, so the XML of the notices. This is more or less what exists also today. You can access a specific notice by clicking on it. You can create a search alert, okay, directly by here, which will be shown then in the box that we said that we have now in the new TED in the My Dashboard, where the user can see the alerts that he has set up, and also the export list that someone can export all the results, and we'll see more details here because there is an enhancement of this part. Yes, here you can see an expanded view of the notices, okay, because they also always have the option to collapse or expand. So here is the expanded thing of what you can see. And here you can choose to drill down further, and what you choose is shown here in the refined search as in order for you to see what you have chosen in the facets. The search results, as I said, this is how you can create. If you click the create search alert, you get a pop-up with where you can define the frequency of the alert, daily, weekly, fortnightly, and monthly. Again, these are options that exist also today. Then you can create notice alert, so to follow a specific notice. I don't go much into the details for all this because this exists also today. It's mainly, as I said, the look and feel that changes. Yes, this is something that does not exist today, meaning that we offer the export list even today. However, in the new TED, you will be able to select further information, so further metadata of the notices to be included in the export list that you will get. Okay, so not just what you see here. There will be a pop-up with all the available information where the user can select, and then for the notices that he selected to be exported, he will get it in his results. If we go now to the notice view, again, the things have changed quite a lot. You can see there are no more tabs here. Things have been replaced and been restructured. Some icons that existed here now have become links on the left-hand side. All the sections of the notice are collapsible or expandable at will. And we'll see further details in the coming slides for specific, I'm sorry, skip. Yes, okay, here. So the summary. The summary now is on the top. there is no specific tab for it. And it includes all the important information, and the summary is available in all the linguistic versions, in all the languages. Because today, if I'm not mistaken, in the original language, there is no summary. So in the new text, it will exist for every language that the user chooses to display the information. Then there will be the table of contents that it will exist in all the notices, okay? So it will make things easier for the user to navigate within the notice. And as you know, some notices can be quite long because they have a lot of information or a lot of sections. Yes, then there has been this new box or section that has been introduced, the official language, the language and formats section, which at first shows the timestamp. This is the line for the official languages, which we have the timestamp PDF, meaning that this notice has as an official language English, so there is a PDF that is timestamped and is the official, let's say, PDF as we call it. Then there is a line with the PDFs of the notice in all the languages in general, but these are not timestamped. And in this specific example, there is also a section of that is called machine translation. And here, someone at some point requested the translation of this notice in English. So the system keeps this translation in order for anyone else that may be interested in this type of translation to access it instead of requesting the translation again. There's also something else here. There's an indication of the official language in this case, because I'm in English, the official language of the notice is in English. So that's why I see also this indication here of official language. Whereas if it was in French for the same notice, I will see here the indication current language. Okay, so in this way you can know or you can see what is the official language of the specific notice or notices. Yes, the related notices thing, which is the equivalent of what we call today the document family, which is a tab. The document family tab ceases to exist. We'll have a link on the right, on the left, that is called related notices, and we'll open the page with the notices related to the notice that I have already selected. Then there is the option on the, again, to build, to get the direct links of the notice. And in HTML download, as we say, that, I mean, download HTML, signed PDF, non-signed PDF, XML, and it's up to you how to use it or reuse it, etc. Then the machine translation functionally is exactly the same like today. The only thing that changes is, as I said, the look and feel. Still, you can access, you can request the target language that you want the notice to be translated, and also the format, either PDF or HTML. And that's what we saw before, that someone at some point requested HTML translation of that notice in Greek. So that's why you saw it, and it's saved now much more visibly, like compared to the current text, in the language and format section. Okay, I think here it's for the people that don't use it, it's known. It's the same functionality like today. You have the option to send by the specific notice by email to someone else. Again, nothing changes compared to the look and feel. And because I'm running out of time from what I see, this is the last slide. Something that changes compared to the current tab is that in all the pages there is this navigation menu. Okay, so except the home page, of course, because there you have it in the middle. So in every page you have this menu that is expands, and you can get all the options or the features that you have in the home page to navigate directly. Okay, this exists in every page. This is a collapsible hamburger menu. And furthermore, on every page, or almost on every page, we have these icons here. So you can have the help icon that takes you to the help page. You have the share that gives you the option to share the URL of the page, and you have the print that prints the specific page. And this is the only functionality that exists, that does not exist in the home page. It exists in all the rest. So I think I'm done. I thank you for your patience, because I think that at some point I was speeding up things. As I said, TED remains the same, more or less functionally. I will pass now the floor to my colleague Carmelo Greco, which is the one that will give you more information about the reuse itself. And after that presentation, we will answer the questions that you may have in both of them. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Well, stop sharing. So just
yeah, stop sharing so that Carmelo can start sharing. So Carmelo, whenever you are ready, please start. And I would like just to make a comment because we have been getting comments through the chat about maybe you were not expecting to have a presentation on the TED website as such. We just thought it would be useful to give it because it's always interesting to see how things change. We never know how much this may, at the end of the day, impact what you are doing with the TED website. And also because we know that we have several types of reusers, not necessarily the ones that only go to the FTP or the HTTPS or use the TED API, but also the ones that create alerts to get information. So there is a wide variety of reusers. And as we don't know them all very well, we try to cover as much as possible. Okay, so thank you for bearing with a presentation that you might not all be expecting, but I hope, and I see now that there are comments getting in, that it was actually interesting and useful. So thank you. We are still waiting for Carmelo to be able to connect.
Do you see my screen or not?
No, not yet. Now we see you, so I will stop my video now that you are there, and whenever you are ready to share, go ahead, please, Carmelo. Thank you.
Then, do you see my screen?
It's coming. It's coming. Yes. Now we see your screen, but probably not exactly what you want to show. Yes, now we are getting there. And if you can put the presentation in presentation mode, because what we can see now is the screen, the first slide plus the preview of the next one.
Okay. Sorry, but I think that I made a mistake with the.
Well, that's
what do you see now?
we see a Word document with lots of weird things. So I totally think that this is what you want to share.
No, it is not what I want to share.
So in the meanwhile, just to remind that we will reply to the questions after Carmelo's presentation. So it will last roughly 40 minutes. 30 minutes now because we are running late, and we will reply there. We will reply to the questions that come to the Slido. Okay, so feel free to post comments in the chat, but we will reply to the questions in Slido. Okay.
I think now it's okay, no?
Now it's getting there, but we are still seeing a pre-visualization, not the presentation mode.
And now?
Yes, now it's there. Thank you. So, floor is yours, Carmelo. Go ahead.
Okay. So the presentation, I will explain how to retrieve e-form notice from TED portal. I did the same presentation in last September, but for the current TED portal. And now I will show you what are the advantages to use the new TED portal to retrieve the e-form notice and even the current notice. So in the agenda, I will talk about searching notice published on the TED portal, retrieve notice published on the TED portal, and I will make some demo. So the user can search in both current standard form and e-form notice. There are several options to search for notice: quick search, advanced search, expert search, search via API, and also you can use RSS feed, browse by, or JS release. Concerning the quick search, so on the left part, the new TED give the possibility to search in any text of the notice, in any label of code value, and in any language. So it is the quick search is more improved in comparison to the current TED. The quick search is limited in the current TED. So I will make a demo. For example, I want to find a notice where the text contains Karlsruhe. So if sorry, but yes. So this is the home page of the new TED. If I want to find Karlsruhe, sorry. So I will get a result in the result page. And as you can see, I have more than 1,000 notices. And when I click on one of the notice, I can we are in a beta environment, so I can see that Karlsruhe is in the summary and also in the content of the notice. So I can find it. Now, if I want to search a notice where the value is service, so it's the same search. Yeah, it's better to. And then I will get also a result, and you can see that you can find notice where the word service is included. I will make another test. I want to find notice where the text contains periodic indicative notice, which is based on the a search field notice type. So if I want to search periodic indicative notice, I will be able to find this information on the notice. Yes. And you can see this in the bottom. Notice, periodic indicative notice. Yeah. Coming back to the present, yes. Coming back to the presentation.
Very well. Wait a moment.
The advanced search. The page advanced search is similar to the current TED, there is one search field added, which is the search field legal basis text. On the notice, e-form notice, and also TED schema notice, there is a tag where the buyer can put the legal basis of the notice, but in text mode. So, oh, sorry. What I will do as a demo, I will find a result of an open procedure where the place of performance is Ukraine, the nature of the contract is service, and the legal basis text contain European Investment Bank. So I will go to the demo. So via the advanced search, I want to find a result where the nature of the contract is a service, the place of performance is Ukraine, and the legal basis text is European Investment Bank. So I will put this in legal basis text, other legal basis. Search. Okay, maybe I have to, okay. The system is finding something, but voila, I get, okay, because I put the search scope active notice, I have to change the scope. So for that, I can edit the search and click all notices to extend the scope. Then I can find the notice. As you can see, the place of performance is Ukraine. The service is, the nature of the contract is service. And we will check also the legal basis text that I'm looking for. So the legal basis text is available here and contain also European Investment Bank. So the search is very useful and very powerful in comparison to the current TED. So I continue the presentation and now the expert search. So the expert search has been improved. We can switch the query in code or in text mode. There are a functionality to check the syntax. There is a menu of the search fields that are available. And for each search field, there is the description and also an example. So this is similar to what we have in the Erlec's website. So we want to use similarities. Concerning the number of search fields, we have about 350 search fields. These search fields are mostly based on the search field for e-forms. We have also for each search field aliases. For example, if we want to find a notice by publication date, we can use the search field PD, which is already used in the current TED. We can use also a search field which is more human readable, publication date, or even we can use a search field based on the metadata field BT05A notice. This information you can find in the SDK, where all fields are defined. So there are three possibilities to find this. Concerning the query syntax, there are small changes. The search term is enclosed in parentheses. There are more operators in, not in, sort by, also to find the text. The wildcard is also available. These are an example, but I will provide a demo for this. Okay, now we will go back to the demo. So I will use the same query. I want to find a result of an open procedure where the place of performance is Ukraine, the nature of the contract is service, and the legal basis text contain European Invested Bank. So as the query is already done in advanced search, it is there just to facilitate myself. I will switch to expert search, and you will see what the query looks like in the expert search. So you can see that the query, we are in code mode. Legal basis text is European Invested Bank. Place of performance is Ukraine. The contract nature is service. The notice type is the result, which is a CAN standard, CAN social, CAN design, and CAN tran. If I switch in text mode, I can see the label value of this search field. If I want to search the syntax, it's okay, but for example, if I remove, for example, this, check the syntax, and I get an error message. Check. So, for example, if I want, I will make a test using this part. I want to find a business opportunities where the notice type is a contract notice standard regime. So I can use this filter to filter. So I want to find a contract notice, which is a standard regime. I will add it to the query. So it is automatically included. And then I put and and the publication date, for example, the publication date. The publication date is not an exact date, but a range of date. The 1st January 2022 until yes, I can keep this as it is, and it will find any notice starting from the 1st January 2022, any notice where the notice type is scan standard. So I will add it in the query, and you see here that the publication date is greater than the 1st of January 2022. If I click search, so I can also select the scope. I will keep active notice. So search, and I get the result here. Voilà. I will continue the presentation. So the result page is also improved. There are a lot of improvement. The search criteria is included in the URL here. This means that the user will be able to modify the search criteria from the URL. We can export the search results. My colleague George give you an overview of that, but we can make an exercise. We can export the results in Excel, in CSV, and in PDF, and we can export several metadata. We can also download notice from the search result in unsigned PDF, signed PDF, or XML. And also the search result page contain facets. So the search criteria include the URL. For example, if I want to find a notice where the contract nature is service, and the search scope is active notice, you can see here in the URL that we have service and the scope is active. If I change it manually, the URL, I will have another result. So I can make a test for this. So if I want to find active notice and nature of the contract is service, search, I will show you in a text. You can see here the URL. So what I will do, I will change the URL as I will put works. And I can also change the scope. So if I use this to find a notice, I will put this here. I will get another result. And you can see here that the search scope is all notice and the nature of the contract is works. So this is useful because you can, for example, if you have a specific query, you can use, reuse, and also share with people. For example, you click share and you will share with your colleague. Or... Voilà. So coming back to the presentation. As I mentioned, we can export search results. We can export in Excel, CSV, or PDF format. We can select several metadata. There are limits. Limit is when the user is signed in, the limit are 150K fields in PDF, 150K fields in Excel, and 450K fields in CSV. For a non-signed user is less. So just a comment here, this functionality is an improvement of the option statistic in statistic mode in the current TED. It is more powerful in comparison of what we have in the current TED. So I can show you this if you want. So if I use, so I have the result here, and if I want to, for example, export, I can export the entire list or the selected notice. I will select only 2 notices, for example, not too much. Export selected notice. I can select Excel, PDF, or CSV. I will use Excel. And which field I want to add, for example, not this because it is already done, but the type of procedure. And also, I want to use also, I would like to use the field form type. Form type. Filter. Yes, I click there and I export. And I will get a result somewhere. So it is available. So here I have the worksheet in CSV format. So you can see the type of procedure, the publication number, and the font type. So here, as I requested it in Excel, I have also the search criteria that can be used for the user. Yes, you can also download notice from search results, but you can download non-signed PDF format, signed PDF format, or XML format. They are also limit. For signed user, 45,000 notice in XML and 15,000 notice in PDF. For non-signed user, 9,000 notice in XML and 3,000 notice in PDF. So I can make also a download. So for that, I click download. I can also select entire list or selected notice. So I will select notice, PDF in browsing language or in official language, download, and I will get a result in here. So you have here the notice in PDF in the signed language to notice selected. Okay. Now the API. The API is improved. It is non-backward compatible. So this means that you have adapt your system. The response file contains the total number of notices that match the search, and list the results. Each result contains the field indicated in the request. So you can add, I want to see the several fields in that result. And for each item, we have the list of the URL in various formats and language in which the corresponding notice is available. This means that using the API, you can make the query and you will retrieve the URL, and based using this URL, you can also download the notice in any format available, XML, PDF, signed PDF, and in all languages. So there are two search modes. There is the pagination mode. With the pagination mode, you can retrieve up to 15,000 notices per query. And there is another mode, which is the scroll mode, where you can retrieve more notices, more than 15,000. So the main parameter of the query are the query parameters, which is the expert search query to filter and sort the notice. The field that we want to return for each notice, the page, the result page number used to paginate the result, the limit, the maximum number of return notice by paginate result. We have the scope to have the scope latest notice, active notice, and all notices. And here we have the pagination mode. Page number means that we'll go in pagination mode, and iteration means that we will go in scroll mode. So a small demo. I want to find notice of the OGS 18 on 2023, where the place of performance is Luxembourg, and the result must contain the publication number, the notice type, the buyer name, and the form type. the search mode will be pagination. So if I use the API, don't take the API. So this is the Swagger, the online documentation of the search API. There are description of it, and then if we want to make an operation, the operation is a post operation. So what I want to do is to find notice on the OJS 18. Something is blocking. What happened? So I will try again. So this is the query I'm doing. So I click execute. And I get the results. Oh, query syntax error, sorry. It is very slow. I don't know what happened. Ah, no, something is, it is too slow. I don't know. We are in a beta environment, which is sometimes unstable. And it's not easy to make. Okay, I get now I get the response. As you can see here, I get the response, and you can see for each notice we have any link to make the query, to get the content of the notice in XML, in PDF, in signed PDF, in HTML, etc. So this is, you can see that we have 6 notices. And now I will make another test in pagination mode, not in pagination mode, but in scroll mode. And for that, I will find notice where the place of performance is Luxembourg. And I want to find the field on the publication number. So if I use this, you can see here that I changed the pagination mode. I put iteration. And when I execute the query, I get a result. And the result contain at the end a token which is used to continue the pagination. As you can see, we have total notice count 377. So using this token, I can continue my query. So I will. It's slow. It is slow.
Carmelo, maybe we can move on.
Yes, I think yes, because the system is too slow. Sorry. I will speed up my presentation and maybe I will drop some demo.
Yeah, and maybe because we
Yes,
are running
okay.
out of time, some other
Okay.
people may have other things to do at midday. Anyway, we
Okay,
will go through the
okay.
questions in the afternoon. And good news, the presentations are all on the website now. So, and if anyone wants to follow them, they are there.
Okay, just small information. The RSS feeds, as in the current TED portal, the user will be able to subscribe RSS feed broken down by business sector, or it can activate custom RSS feed from the MySave search. The user can retrieve notice published on the new TED portal with several options. We have the direct link. We can download XML notice in bulk from TED website. Important information, the option download XML notice in bulk from the TED FTP server is not available in the new TED portal. So this means that you should use the download using the HTTPS. So to retrieve notice using direct link, this is the format where we have the format TED.europad, then the language, the notice, the publication number, and the format. Here we have, for the format, we can put HTML, PDF, PDFs, or XML. The direct link to view the page is slightly different because of our system cannot provide the same format. We should have this information, the dash and detail. Useful information, there is a backward compatibility with the current TED. For example, here we have the notice, the same notice using this old URL or the new URL is the same. You can read the same notice. If you want to download XML notice in bulk from TED website, you can download daily package or monthly package. There is no need to sign in to download the daily or monthly package. It's better than the current TED. So if you want to download the daily package, you use this URL where you can see daily and also the OGS number, the first OGS number of 2023. Or if you want to download a monthly package, you use monthly and you put the first month of 2023. So the user using FTP, if they use this, the result will be the same. A small information concerning the extension of the notice publication number to 8 digits. So in comparison to the current TED website, the new TED website allows a maximum of less than 100 million of notice to be published per year. So we can have 8 digits, for example, 1 2024 or the 8 digits dash 2020 the year. So due to the extension, the XML package contains 2 ways of numbering XML. For IFORM notice, the file has 8 digits. For TED schema notice, the file has 6 digits. So here there is no change of what we have today in the package. The publication number is 8 digits for IFORM notice and 6 digits for TED schema notice. And that's all, and thank you.
Thank you, Carmelo. We still have 9 minutes for replying to questions. So if my colleagues could show the questions that have been coming up on Slido so that we can go through them. Okay, so I'm not really sure if it's Mariella or Laura that can do that. And I take it they are from the oldest to the newest, and we should start by the bottom. So the idea, first question, could we get a development acceptance environment on the TED, on the new TED in the summer? I saw a similar question about the possibility of having access to the parallel run option when we start. We will look into that. We cannot guarantee now that there will be an access to the development or acceptance environment to the new TED, but we understand that it might be interesting to do so or needed even. So we will look into that and see if it is possible. I think I can also answer the next one, which is, will the FTP service continue to be supported? As Carmelo said, no, it will be replaced with the HTTPS. And I see now that I should have started by the top because I see that a new question came up in the bottom. And I'm afraid that I cannot reply to the one in the top. So the development documents contain a warning about the field repository. However, we currently do not guarantee the stability of the structure of content described here. Or maybe I can try to give a reply to this. So we try to provide as much information as possible and to document the novelties. And we publish this information, namely in the development docs. However, sometimes reality moves faster, so there may be changes that happen that are not immediately documented. So that's why we have included a warning saying that we cannot guarantee, it's not the stability of the structure, maybe the terms used are a bit strange. We cannot guarantee that what we present as documentation is updated to the second, which means that indeed this is as updated as fast as possible. However, if by any chance there is a difference, you should always check the reality of the actual fields that are documented. Okay. I hope that it solves the question. The next one I've replied already. Wouldn't it be nice for us reusers to have access to the development run? Yes, it would be nice. Yes, we will look into whether it is possible or not, because as you can understand, the environment where this parallel run is going to happen is not meant as a production environment. So there are limitations, there are certain of accesses that would probably need to be provided, to be seen. Okay, no promises, but we will look into it. Then the next question, why reusers and who's the original user of the notice data? Well, the TED website is meant for publishing notices that then will be looked into by the economic operators that are interested in them. So the first purpose of the TED website is to publish information that is going to be consulted by someone. We also know that there are entities like you that go and fetch this data, process it, and then either sell it or make it available to others. So the original user is the one that is going to the TED website just to consult the notices that come every day. The reusers are the ones who go fetch this data and do something else out of it. So that's the difference between the ones and the others. I think I can also take the next one. It would be nice if you could create a short guide that summarizes in a concise manner what a reuser would have to do to replicate what is essentially done using the FTP server today. We will try, we cannot promise. To prevent to have things that are documented and then do not correspond to the latest evolution, we avoid putting out information that is not fully correct. We understand the need of documentation. We will try to look into it to the best of our ability and make it available as if and when it is possible. I suppose I can also answer the next one because I learned about it during the seminar. But anyway, if my colleagues want to intervene, they are free to. Okay. Advanced search in the new TED. Multiple search is also possible. Yes, multiple search is possible. And anyway, Carmelo demonstrated that the multiple search was possible. In his initial examples, he was just providing one search criteria, but then at some stage, he also provided the multiple search criteria. Then I think I will pass the next one to someone else. Are reusers really using the search on the TED website instead of downloading and processing the bulk data? Actually, I would return the question to you, reusers, because as we know, there are several possible ways of using and extracting data from TED. We know that some are processing the bulk data. We have numerous comments in the chat about that. We assume that to be able to download information, to extract information, if the information is precise, you will have to use the search on the TED website to be able to process queries that are corresponding to your needs. So I'm afraid that the question needs to be returned to the reusers. And you need to tell us actually what you do and how you do it. Carmelo, you may pick the next one. Where can I find the codes for the expert search? I know the answer, but maybe you can give a better one.
You can find the code of the expert search via the user interface of the expert search, but we will have also a help page where you will be able to find the code. So in the current TED, we have a help page where the code are available. So for the new TED, we will have similar information.
Thank you. So next one, is there a centralized document that gives full definitions for the variables and options for the different search fields to aid understanding? In other words, is there definitions for what each of the legal bases mean, what each type, notice type means, etc. So there is no centralized document that would include all this information. Some information comes from the e-forms regulation, like the definitions for the notice types or the content of each notice type and so on. There is some, to a certain extent, information about each of the legal bases, because as you know, there are 4 main legal bases for procurement, the ones that come from the so-called public procurement directives. But then there are other legal bases, namely, for example, the financial regulation that applies to the EU institutions. So this information is a bit spread around. We tried to gather it, namely through the documents, to the documentation portal. And we have a certain set of information also in the TED website. I'm afraid that for the time being, we do not have a centralized document, but the information is around and it can be combined in order to provide it. Let's try quickly to reply to the next one. What is the URL to the new API? Carmelo?
So now we have the URL, but the URL of the API is the beta environment. So you will have, when we will go in production, you will have another URL. I cannot give you what we have now in beta environment.
Okay, I don't know if you can also try to address the next one. Why are the translations not supported in the new eForms XML notices?
I don't understand. Why are the translation not supported in the new eForm XML notice? I don't understand.
Okay, so maybe the one who raised the question can reformulate it, and probably we may try to give an answer to this in the afternoon, okay? I think that would be the same thing for the next one. Is the fields JSON file part of the SDK, part of the SDK or the documentation? Yes, I believe that this is there. And as part of the SDK, shouldn't it be up to date? Yes, it should be up to date, but I think that we can come back to this question in the afternoon when my colleague Jan is around, because he's the master of the SDK. So we can maybe start the beginning in the beginning of the afternoon. Okay, with this one.
But I see that there is a...
We cannot hear you very well, Yanis, and
I didn't speak.
So I see that the Green Curel specified what he was talking about, the translation. So he says regarding the question about no translation, there is no translation section in the eForms notices. That's what he meant. Why are the translations not supporting the new eForms XML notices? Okay. So I don't know if Carmelo can answer this, but again, the translations are in the eForms notices. Of course, the structure of the eForms notices are quite different in general, and this includes also the translation part compared to the current TED schema notices. That's the point. But the translations are there whenever translations exist for a specific eForms notice. Okay. I don't know if Carmelo wants to say something more, but
George Manuel, I don't know if you want me to answer the question now instead of postponing it.
Let's say we should try to finish because we should start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you can be fast, then maybe you can. Okay.
So, fields JSON is part of the SDK. The documentation is versioned with the SDK. The question, something shouldn't be up to date. The SDK is up to date. The latest SDK has the latest information that we have. When we have more information, we release a new version of the SDK. So I don't understand. It's by definition up to date. If there is a mistake, you can point the mistake out to us and we will fix it in the next release of the SDK. Everything is up to date by definition. What if it's not up to date, it's a mistake, and we continuously release new versions that fix our mistakes and improve the content.
Okay, thanks. I'll pick the next one because I'll pick the provocative ones. Okay, and who uses the TED user interface to scan and process notices? We don't really know. We expect you to tell us what you do to get data. We know that some people actually go into the user interface to retrieve information. Not large scale, small scale, but still they reuse whatever information is available there. And yes, you are not fully wrong when you say that we may not have a full understanding of who our users are. And that's why we need your help to tell us who you are. As I said, access to TED is free. There is no limitation, no constraint, because the access to information is open. Therefore, there is really no way for us to know who is going to TED, who is using the information, and how is this information used. We can guess on the basis of the questions that come to the help desk, the questions that you have been posting in Slido today and in the chat. So yes, indeed, any information that you can give us so that we can improve the service and better understand what the needs are and how we can address them is definitely very much welcome. Okay. When will the current FTP be decommissioned? I believe that as soon as we move into the new TED website, the current FTP will be decommissioned, but I would let Carmelo confirm.
I confirm.
Okay, so it's confirmed. So as soon as we move into the new TED website, we will decommission the FTP. We do understand that you need to prepare, so we will look carefully into the possibility of giving you free access to the parallel run environment so that you can prepare. Okay, we will try. That's why we are here, to understand what you need and to try to address it. So I will not take the next one personally. What's publishing notices good for if you cannot read, understand them? Well, you can read and understand the notices that are published, hopefully, because they correspond to what has been defined in the regulation, in the legislation. So in principle, we should be able to understand that. And again, who would use the TED user interface and read PDFs? We expect that there is a reasonable number of people that would go into TED and read PDFs. We have statistics for that. And again, for the reuse, definitely you are users. We call them reusers to distinguish. And we have to cater for both. That's the way it is. Then how to deal with active notices in the old schema that were published before the change to e-forms and now need to be changed, or the award needs to be announced, for example. How can the old schema be applied to the new schema? Actually, when we move into e-forms fully, only e-forms can be used. By that time, if you have change notices or if you have award notices, if you have a notice that continues a procedure, you will have, well, the ones who send notices for publication will have to convert the previous notice, the notice that needs to be changed, so that they can publish the new notice in TED. For the contract award notice, the contract award notice needs to be published in e-forms format, even if the contract notice was published in the current TED schema. So that's the way to deal with this. There are mappings. There will be a converter made available so that the users can do the conversion. The publications office will do no conversion. Okay, we will make the tool available, but we will not use it for conversion purposes. And then I will leave the last one to Carmelo regarding question about API URL. Will this URL going to change? So
Yes.
Carmelo.
Yes.
Okay, maybe you can just detail a little bit the yes.
Because it will be the new URL of the new set. So we will not have a version 3 notice search. We will have another URL, but we will provide it to the reuser.
Okay. So thank you. We will stop now because we are already 10 minutes behind schedule. So I apologize for that. We will look into the questions that have, or comments that have been coming through the chat, and we will try to address them in the afternoon, if it's okay. I see that there are questions about how to give us feedback and get in touch with us. So we will address that in the afternoon. Please come back in the afternoon. I think it will also be very interesting to hear what Yanis has to say about the TED semantic web services and what Mark Christopher will have to say about the public procurement data space. This is things that we think are of interest to reusers or special users as you are. Okay, so thank you very much and see you at 2 o'clock. Bye-bye. Good afternoon and welcome back to the second part of our workshop. We will have two presentations this afternoon, one given by my colleague Yanis Roussouratsakis on the TED semantic web service, hoping that this addresses the needs of the reusers that you are. And then we will have another presentation later on by our colleague from DG Growth, Mark Christopher Smith, who will talk about the public procurement data space. At the end of each of the presentations, we will have time for questions. As asked this morning, please post your questions in Slido. It's easier for us to follow and to make sure that we reply to everything. Maybe not to everybody's content, but at least to reply to everything. In any case, we are keeping an eye also on the comments that appear on the chat, and we will try to address them in the best possible way. Someone was asking this morning how to provide for useful input about the real needs of reusers, or at least some types of reusers. The best way to get in touch with us and to make sure that things are duly followed up is to contact the help desk. I know it may sound a bit anonymous, somehow a bit unpersonal, but actually it's the way that we have to make sure that everything that is sent is duly registered to start with and duly followed, because the help desk actually sends then the reply, the questions to the members of the team that are concerned, and that can provide a useful reply, or that can provide the useful reflection around it. Okay, so please use the help desk. The contact form is in the TED website. The best way is to indicate the subject, and the subject is reuse of TED data. So there is a specific entry for that, and then explain. I would love to promise that we can have individual face-to-face meetings with everybody, but as you will certainly understand, that's not something that we can ensure with the appropriate level of quality. So first, do send us your input. We will look into that and we will try to see how we can move from there. Okay. So this is what I have to say just before we start the afternoon. Yanis, if you are ready, the floor is yours so that we can start on time and end on time as well. So Yanis, here you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuela. Hello, everyone. Give me a second to share my screen. Hopefully the screen is shared now. So I'm beginning. There might be some hiccups with the sound. If that's the case, just interrupt me, and I don't know, turn off my video or something. So, my name is Yannis Zoukadzakis. I'm the head of sector for the standards and support section of the TED unit in the publications office. And obviously, I work with the teams that prepare the standards that we use and the information systems that we use in our work. And today I want to talk to you about the new TED semantic web service that we are in the process of launching this summer. We've been working on this for over a year now. And we're trying to, get it out there so that you can actually see it and use it. I will assume that not everybody is familiar with what the semantic web is, and so I will give you a brief introduction, as if you don't know anything about it. So the semantic web is also known as Web 3.0, and basically it's an extension
Yannis,
of the
sorry
World
for interrupting, but the sound gets cut. So
okay, give me a second. I will try the classical trick of turning off my video as soon as I find how to do it. I know that I stopped the presentation, but I will restart it, okay? Does that look good?
yeah, it looks good.
But you see also this tiny window that I'm moving around, so I have to make it disappear. Okay. Is that good now?
It is good, and the sound sounds better as well. Thank you.
All right, good. You don't need to see me anyway. So the semantic web is an extension of the traditional web, the World Wide Web, as we come to know it, which enables machines to understand the meaning of semantics of information. And it is a framework for linking and connecting data in a structured way so that computers can process and interpret the data in an intelligent, quote unquote, manner. There's an analogy, but maybe I'll make the analogy later. Okay, I'll give you the key components for this first. So the key components for building the semantic web are the so-called resource description framework, which is a standard language for representing information on the web, using what we call triples. I'm not going to get into that, but basically think of it as an XML vocabulary, or even more abstractly as a standard language to represent any kind of information. The other key component of the semantic web is formal the ontologies, which are formal vocabularies, which define the relationships and the meanings of terms that are used in a specific domain. So in our case, the domain is the public procurement domain. And of course, another key component of the semantic web is the interconnected data sets on the web, which we call linked data, which allow us to navigate different data sets. I think that somebody has unmuted their microphone for a second. Okay, hopefully things are back to normal. Maybe I said something funny, I don't know, but I'll find out later. So therefore, these are the key components. So you can think of the semantic web in a similar way that you think of the traditional web. And just as in the traditional web, we use HTML, so the web pages, to structure and organize web content that is meant to be consumed by humans. In the semantic web, the equivalent of HTML web pages is RDF documents, which structure and connect data, just like we connect pages on the traditional web. The RDF does the same thing for the semantic web. And of course, the main benefits of the semantic web is that it enables the integration and interoperability across data sources and domains. It provides a basis for a better understanding of a domain and the reasoning on domain data, creating automation and using machines to automatically process domain-specific data. And of course, support many advanced capabilities, better search, better recommendations, all these things And nowadays that AI is taking off, it is also very important it has an important use in providing training data for artificial intelligence models through the knowledge graphs it provides and semantic embeddings or enriched feature sets, which are basically data that are used to train AI models. So that's an intro on what the semantic web is. Now, in the publications office, since the last 5 years, you already know about it, I guess. We've been working on the e-procurement ontology. And it is our first big step towards the semantic web. The objective of the ontology is to, not the ontology, the objective of the project is to create a commonly agreed ontology, which can conceptualize and encode formally and make available the public procurement data that we collect. Of course, towards the goals of the semantic web, so machine-readable formats, etc. And also, one of the key things or goals of the work we're doing in the ontology is to cover the public procurement space end to end. So starting from e-notification, tendering, awarding, ordering, invoicing, and through to payment. So in this context, in the publications office, we have engaged with a group of experts. It is known as the e-procurement ontology working group, which meets every week. And our goal and the work that we're doing with the working group is to build a consensus that is necessary to define the public procurement space ontology, to analyze, to work together to verify the analysis and the results and the deliverables that we develop with our contractors in the publication office for this ontology. So the ontology therefore provides a semantic foundation for public procurement. And the key components that we are producing is a conceptual model, which we use heavily in the working group, so that we can exchange ideas and suggestions and clarifications around the concepts that we analyze. And this is based on UML. You have access to it through our GitHub repository, and also a formal representation of the ontology, which basically are text files that formally describe the entities and the relationships that we define in the ontology, and that can be used by computers in order to create the necessary RDF files and to process the data. So the key benefits basically are the same. It creates a common understanding, which is very important in a complex field like the public procurement space. And of course, standardization and enabling interoperability across systems. Now, I hope so far so good. Now, how do you access the data today? Okay, you know already you have the FTP, the API. You mostly download raw files, and then you have to somehow process them, analyze them, data warehouse them, clean them up, and all that. You also get a subset of the data in CSV format, which is an easier alternative, but doesn't give you full access to all the data that's available. And of course, the hard part today, we all know that is the fact that we have several legacy schemas, what we call usually the TED XML schemas. And of course, the new reformed schema, which will keep changing as the domain changes. So there is inherent complexity about which we talked earlier. And of course, how do you manage these changes going forward? So that's the status of data access today. Now, what's the TED semantic web service? Now, the idea of the semantic web service is build on the work that we have been doing for the past 5 years in the ontology, and to build on the know-how and the infrastructure that we already have in the publications office around the semantic web, and bring all this together with the data into the public procurement space by starting with the creation of a conversion pipeline that will continuously poll the TED website for any XML notice that is published there, regardless of the schema, download it, process it, convert it to RDF, and publish it to an RDF store, a triple store, as we call it, so that it is available to everybody. That's the main concept. So we go from XML to RDF. Now the service that is going to be publicly accessible will have a SPARQL endpoint. SPARQL is a language. So it's like you use SQL to query databases. SPARQL is a language used to query triples, so semantic data. So we will provide a SPARQL endpoint in which you can directly query the data. And also we provide an RDF store from which you can download the RDF files, the original RDF files that contain the triples. But there is going to be one RDF per notice, whereas the SPARQL endpoint will give you direct query capabilities across all the notices that are stored in the triple store. And of course, this will be available without any logins, and the access to it will be open. And like I said, earlier, yeah, it is. It's going to be updated daily, and it will also contain historical data. Now, what are the key benefits in this for you and for us? So I think for you, the main thing is that there is going to be a unified representation of all the data, and you don't have to figure out which XML schema every XML file complies with and maintain scripts and all that. You will have one format for every file if you download files. So you got the dependency to the XML schemas. There's going to be a continuous evolution and improvement of the data sets. So because it's going to be live data provided in an endpoint, as we process and we improve the data, the conversion, and all the features we will add in the future in our system, you will benefit from them with continuous updates. That will improve the completeness and the quality of the data. And of course, you will have access to all the data. So you have historical data, not just from now on. How are you going to adapt to this and migrate? Okay, this is going to be a not very difficult proposition, but not trivial either, because everybody has different systems. You will need, those of you that are not familiar with semantic technologies, you will need to start understanding RDF. It's not too complex. It's fairly straightforward, but you need to understand RDF. And one of the things, of course, that I notice now that I don't have in the slide is you will need to also familiarize yourself with the procurement ontology, but I'll give you some hints about that in a second. So you will need to understand how RDF works. If you want to be optimistic about it, the optimistic note would be that at the end of the day, RDF is just another XML format that doesn't change. Not exactly, but yeah. Yeah, it's just a standard XML format. If you want to perform direct queries on our servers, you will need to learn SparkQL. Not terribly complicated for somebody that understands SQL. So you all more or less have access to people that will be able to work with these technologies. And of course, like I just said, you will need to familiarize yourself with the ontology. We have extensive documentation, which we try to improve all the time on the ontology in our documentation website. So hopefully that will be enough for you to explore and understand what exactly is in the ontology and what exactly entities the ontology describes, and what are the relationships between them and all that stuff. And you can always use SparkQL in your Excel with Power Query, or if you're familiar with languages like Python and R. But Excel is the simplest way, and SparkQL to explore and understand the data sets that we provide. How are we going to help you? Like I just said, we're trying to do our best to get a complete and comprehensive and adequate documentation, at least for the ontology in the docs website. We're working on creating a quick start guide, so people that are starting for the first time, what you need to do. It's not available yet, but we're working on it. And we're also working on some sample applications. We have some applications that we've started and we will soon publish that are in Python and R using Jupyter notebooks. And also we're working to show you how you can connect Excel to our SparkQL endpoint and directly query the data that we have there so that we can explore the data set and create your first reports. Now, when this is going to be available? Okay, we were hoping that it would be available before today, but it's the first time we're trying to deploy something like this, so we had our difficulties. But we'll get there within the summer. By the end of the summer, everything should be in place. So hopefully the next time we meet, we will be able to do a demo for you and play a little bit with the data, or maybe you will already have access to the data the next time we meet. So we're preparing the SPARQL endpoint in the RDF store, the documentation and the sample applications, just like I said. Now, what to expect? Sorry. The ontology is not going to change the world overnight. Although it's going to be a very, very significant step moving forward for us and the public procurement space, it's not going to change the world overnight. We'll get there gradually. So we're starting by launching everything that we have now, but the rollout is going to be gradual. So we don't have all the data converted yet. We're working on creating the necessary mappings that will enable our converter to convert all the data that exists in TED, the historical data. We're working on the eForms conversion to RDF. So the data set that is going to be provided on the day of the launch is going to be continuously enriched with better data and more data. And you'll start seeing this after the launch that will happen in the next weeks. I don't know exactly how many weeks because it's tricky, but yeah, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 9, but something like that. Now, what are we going to do next? Like I said, we're working on the mappings that are necessary for the transformation from XML to RDF, which will continue through 2023, both for the TED XML historical data that are in the TED website also, and also for the eForms. And there is a plan to start working on a master data registry that will allow us to better clean up and link the data that we produce. So I think that's about it. I don't know if this was informative enough, but I will answer your questions when they come. I tried to at least entertain you with nice graphics that I created with an AI especially for this. So I don't know if at least the graphics were interesting. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanis. That was very interesting. There are a couple of questions, both in the chat and in Slido. I suggest that we start with Slido, if you don't mind. And then the ones that are posting questions in the chat, if you can make the extra effort, copy and paste them into Slido, it's easier to follow. Okay, so thank you. And someone is asking for the link to Slido. It was given this morning, but I'm pretty sure that my colleagues can post it again on the chat. Otherwise, you have it in front of you, but I think it's easier if you have a link that you can click onto. Here it is. Thanks, Mariela. Okay, Yanis, I will read the first question, and I don't really think this one is for you. It's rather for Carmelo. Is there any machine readable endpoint to get the current OJS number? Yanis or Carmelo?
I don't have the answer to that question. I'm sorry, Manuela. Either Carmelo, I don't know if Bertrand knows. Otherwise, I have to look it up. Not familiar with endpoints.
Via the API, you can get the current OJS. Ah, you want to get the current OGS number. Ah, okay. No, we don't have this, but in TED 2.0, you can download the release calendar of the year. So you will have in Excel format the OGS for each publication date.
Okay, but I wonder if the question is not whether you can, where you can get the current OJS issue, not necessarily number, but the issue, the daily issue, let's say.
But via the API, you can get the current OGS number. Yes, by using the scope. So on TED, you can select the scope. When you make a search, you can select the scope current OGS or active notice or all notice. So if you use the scope current OGS, you will have the information regarding the current OGS, yes.
Okay, so the answer is yes, there is a machine readable endpoint to get the current OJS number. Thank you, Carmelo. Then we have a couple of suggestions from Jon, who says that it is very fine that we give a first glimpse of what is coming, but of course you need to plan your development efforts so that you need more concrete information in due time, and you need to test your implementation. So you suggest, namely, that from the 1st of August, we provide access to the test environment to start changing your integrations. And then on the 1st of October, you would like, we would go live with the new solution, but then we would leave the old system running for a grace period of 2 months. And I think that there is a third comment, yes. And then between the 1st of August and the 1st of December, we Publications Office would be available for questions and possible bug fixes. And if there are blocking issues, the grace period with the old system running could be extended. Okay, so the thing is, from what I understand so far, we have been working in the perspective that there will be a parallel run for test purposes, and we thought about test purposes as internal test purposes to make sure that everything runs correctly. In the perspective that the main reason why we publish that is to publish notices that are sent by contracting authorities and that need to be made available for anyone who wants to see them. So this is the main objective of TED. It was clear from the discussions this morning, well, the virtual discussions this morning, that there are, of course, interests from the what we call the reusers. Sorry for using the term, but this is the term that we use. And that you may need to be able to test if things will work properly on your site. So we cannot guarantee here today that there will be this period, that this period will start on the 1st of August and will end on the 1st of October or the 1st of December. But we will definitely look into what is possible and what can be done, because of course it's not in anybody's interest that you are not able to provide the services that you have been providing so far. So we will look into it carefully. We will try to find a way. If possible, we will give you indeed access to a test environment, acceptance environment, whatever we want to call it. And we will make sure that you will be able to work and prepare yourself for what is going to happen with the new TED website. I cannot guarantee at this stage that we will be able to keep both old and new in parallel running for real production needs, because from the moment we go live with one, we cannot be live with the other one. But again, we will look into it and we will try to come up with something that hopefully will be meeting everybody's needs. Okay. But thank you for the suggestion. Thank you for making it so clear. And as said, as I posted in the chat earlier, if you have any more detailed things that you are thinking of, please send them through the help desk. We will look into them. Okay, that's what I repeat myself, but this is the reason why we are here. It's not just to explain what is going on, but also to hear from you if what we are planning fits the needs or not. So, hoping that I have replied, not necessarily in the way that you would like me to, but at least to give you some reassurance, Jan. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one, it's for you, Yanis. When is this new semantic system be available for reusers?
Like I said, it should have been already there, so we're running past the clock. I'm confident that we will be able to launch it by the end of the summer. So it is reasonable for you to expect to see it by September. That's what I can say at this point in time. Normally, it will be there by September.
Okay, can you also deal with the next one, which is for someone not familiar with a semantic web service or RDF? Could you please provide some example use cases for this and how they would compare to just getting raw TED XML files?
Okay, so if today you want to get the data for 1 year of TED XML or 1 year of eForms, you will need to deal with one or more XML schemas, typically more than one XML schemas. So you need to be able to parse XML files with an application that will find the data that you need in the file, taking care of the format of the XML, which changes with the schema. Now, if it was an RDF file, the RDF schema doesn't change. Of course, the semantics might change, and that is a different type of problem. But the semantics mostly don't change because that's why they're created. So the semantics are going to stabilize much faster than the schemas. So the idea, therefore, is that you would be able, even if you read a raw RDF file, you would be able to parse it and extract the data much faster and much easier. Then also the other thing that you can do with the semantic web service is that you don't really need to get all the data and data warehouse it somewhere and clean it up and analyze it if you just want to find out something. So if you want to answer a question, you don't need to download the data and store it somewhere and figure out all the schemas. You can just go in a website, either with your own hands in your laptop, or you can have a machine go there, and you can send a query written in the SPARQL language. And the SPARQL language is something that looks like SQL. And that thing will return the data that you need by searching on the server on the entire data set. It will return exactly the data that you asked for, either in JSON format or in CSV format or in whatever. There are some formats that are supported anyway. It can even give you an Excel view. But typically, if you're writing an application, you would like to have the data in JSON. So you can send, therefore, either through a system or manually yourself a query to a website and get the response that you want, either if it is an answer to the question or if it is a list, a data set. Get it right away without having to download anything. So that's the main idea. When we launch this, we will have a proper quick start guide and proper documentation for sample applications so that you can start exploring this. It will take some exploration in the beginning. If you're not at all familiar, it always, like everything, it takes some exploration. There is some learning curve, but it's not crazy. I mean, it's not something more difficult than what you do now, and it will, you know, the investment in know-how will pay off better than the hunting around the XML schemas. So I hope this covers you.
Thanks, Yanis. The next question is as follows. Does that mean that the current eForms XML found in the FTP download is not the final RDF in XML that will be used from October on? Just allow me some clarification because sometimes we get all mixed up. Okay, there is the current TED XML, which will continue to exist even after October. The only thing is that it's not going to be accepted and further published. But whatever is in TED, exists in TED, continues to be in TED and continues to be downloadable and reusable. There will be a new XML, UBL with eForms. We already have some. We will continue to have them. These are the ones that we will accept as from 25th of October. RDF is an extra thing that comes on top of what is already being published. So whatever files that we have in XML will also be available in RDF, just to clarify. And then for the more detailed and technical explanation that you probably are looking for, maybe Yanis, you can elaborate a little bit.
I think that you explained it all right. Basically, like you said, the RDF is not going to replace the XML files. The notices are going to still be created in XML. The only difference is that the notices created in XML are going to adhere to changing XML schema. So from time to time, the schema is going to be updated. Whereas, regardless of the schema of the XML notice, there is going to be an RDF for every notice, and all the RDFs for all the notices at a given point in time will have exactly the same format and convey exactly the same semantics. So you don't have to figure out each notice where each data point is inside its notice, depending on which XML schema it was created in. You just open any RDF, and you know that all the RDF files follow the same format for all the notices for all the years. Right? That's the main difference. And so for every notice, you have it in the TED website. You get it from the TED website as XML, and from the TED semantic web service, you get it as RDF. All right? And like I said before, just to make it once more the distinction, that at the semantic web service endpoint, you will be able to do two things: either download RDF files or send a query that gives you data, the data that you select. So for example, you can write a query and say, I don't know, give me all the notices from where the buyer is in that country, or with all the notices where there's been an award of a contract in Spain, I don't know, and blah 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 blah, whatever criteria you want, and then it will give you, and you can specify which fields you want, and it will give you this data set without having to download the entire thing and process it on your side. The processing will be done on our side. Okay, I hope it makes sense. I'm not sure that I'm making sense 100%. Sometimes I worry that my assumptions of the things that I understand are, common, not always.
Anyway, if it's not clear, well, feel free, the ones who have been asking the questions, to ask for further clarification. We will try to provide it. Okay. There are two questions that are related after. One is if there is a plan to deprecate any of the current ways to access open access to the XMLs via FTP. We said that this morning with the new TED website, the access through FTP would be discontinued. We also understood that it might create problems. We will look into how we are going to deal with it exactly, but the idea is that the new TED website will not or would not have an access through the FTP, or would not provide an access through the FTP, because the access would be provided through the HTTPS. And yes, it will still be possible to have access to the information. Carmelo, if you want to elaborate a little bit on this so that it's made more clear.
It is clear what you mentioned. The access to the daily package will be using HTTPS. So it is simple. You replace an URL by another URL, and you will get the information. There is no complexity for that.
So in principle, there are no worries. The data will be accessible. The FTP will not be there, but there will be alternatives, as explained by Carmelo this morning. So I'm pretty sure that when you have the presentation in front of you and you can go through it again, you will understand how it will work in practice. Then the next question is how old TED data will be available eventually in the new TED semantic web service? What is the rollout plan, historical data scope? I'll leave this one to you, Yanis, please.
Yeah, I prefer to leave this to Natalie if she's there. Are you there, Natalie? Maybe not. Okay. I'm not sure. I cannot give you exact dates. I have to get back to you on that. The general idea is that we are going to go back as much as possible in time. Ideally, we'll go all the way back. But this will happen gradually. So we start from today and work our way backwards, mapping older and older schemas. And when we map an older schema, we will be able to convert all the data that was submitted with that schema we will be able to convert it in RDF. The generals, if I give you a general sense of time, but this is more like a general sense of time and not something that I can be certain at this point in time, we should be able to finish this work in 6 to 9 months for the historical data. But don't take me on my word, for this. This is just an estimation that we have discussed internally, and it's not something that I can commit to at this point. But gives you a rough idea of what effort it requires and how much time it will take. So we're working our way backwards, and we're including more and more data as we go. What would you like to have? Maybe that's a question that I don't know if we can ask you, or if you can answer this question, maybe in the chat or somehow give us an indication of what would you like to have in terms of historical data.
Yeah, and also maybe an explanation about what would you need it for, because it's nice to have all, but ultimately we need to have a purpose for having all this data. As Yanis explained, we are trying to do it backwards. Okay, we go back in time. At some stage, we will probably need to stop because it's not useful anymore to go back even more back in time, but to be seen. I think, Yanis, you replied to both questions related to the historical data, because the next one is also how far will the historical data go back in time in the new TED semantic web service. Maybe we can pass to the next one, which is, would RDF allow to download daily packages via code?
Yes, you will be able to download it. It's not something that we organized yet. We want to get it to production and see how we're going to document and disseminate the information necessary for you to work with it. As soon as it goes to production, we will be able to talk about details. There is enough flexibility for us to cover your needs, so you will be able to download it. Yes, although I cannot tell you exactly how now.
Okay, and maybe you can also pick the one on how would RDF be available to the user and can it be accessed programmatically in the TED semantic website?
Oh Gott, nee, das muss irgendwie. Oh je, das muss doch aufsplitten, das weiß ich echt nicht.
We have some.
If you can, please mute your.
So how? Now the question of how implies to me that it would be a technical description. So we're talking about the first question: how would RDF be available to the user? So the user is you, and can it be accessed programmatically? Yes. I mean, the answer is obviously yes. The entire semantic web has been invented so that computers programmatically can use it without any human intervention. Yes, that's the whole purpose of it, so that you can access the data programmatically, and that you can, regardless of how the data was created and what is in every notice, you will be able to make queries across all the data that you can access. So that's the whole idea. This is not for consumption of people. This is consumption by machines. That's why it's made.
Thank you. I guess the next one is for Carmelo. For the HTTPS download URL, we need the current OJS ID. How do we know what the current OJS ID is? Carmelo? You think you can have an answer?
Yes. Mm. When you are talking about the HTTPS download, you want to download the package, or what is the question? Is to download the package, or I don't understand.
Well, the question as formulated is to download. You need apparently the OJ's ID. And the question is, how do you know what is the current OJ's ID? Where can this information be found?
And the calendar of TED website, you can find the OJS ID of this. I don't understand the question. I don't understand, because current OJS ID, I don't understand really.
We want to download the packages automatically, and so we have a link. I posted it in the chat, and for that link we need in the last 3 numbers the OJS ID, and our computer must know about the ID of today. So we can't grab it manually from the website. But our computer needs to know what is the OJS ID of today. So for today it's 113,
Yeah.
and we need to know the 113.
Okay, yeah, I think it's not possible even in the current TED. For the new TED, we have to think about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry,
another.
I answered okay, because I think, okay, it's not 100%.
We cannot hear you very well, George.
Now, is it better? I'm closer to the.
Get closer, get closer.
Okay, so I think it was shown in one of the slides of Carmelo's presentation. I mean, the last presentation before the lunch break. And actually today, with a new TED, you will just need the date. You don't need the publication, the OJS number, as you say. Okay, so yeah, indeed, you need to adapt a bit. But as Carmelo said, you will be able to get from the first day of the year, so from the first day of 2023, let's say, or from 24, actually, with a new system, you will be able to get the yearly publication plan. So out of this, you will know on which dates there will be a publication of an OJS. And based on this, actually, it's simpler than what you have there, because you only need the date.
Yes.
Okay, and I think it's shown, but I don't have it in front of me now. It is shown in the slide that Carmelo included in his presentation about the bulk downloads, etc. I think it was slide 24 or 25, close to the end.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the user must use the worksheet where there are the OJS number with the associated publication date, and based on that, the user can build the query to get the current OJS number. But there is no automatic query to get the OJS number, the current OJS number. But the user using FTP to download the OJS, they are doing this. They have the same. They proceed as I mentioned. I explained with HTTPS. So it's exactly the same.
Actually, I didn't think before. It's indeed the OJS number, and I put an example of the URL. Okay, ignore the blah 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 because it's the part of the URL that depends on the test environment that we have today. So there it will be ted.europa.eu, whatever will be the final URL. As you can see here, this is a way to download the daily packets of the first OJS of the year, so the 001 of 2023. Okay, and based on the release plan, on the release calendar that you will be able to know from the first day of the year, you know that this OJS was published in 23 on the 2nd of January 23, okay, because that was the first working day that we published. Then the second OJS will be 2023 000 blah 2.
Exactly.
That is published on the 3rd of January. Okay, in 24, it will be, let's say, the equivalent will be 2024 00001. I don't know by heart now when is the first publication date in 24. Okay, so this is how it will work. And this is for the daily packets. And for the monthly ones, the difference will be that it will be per month. So it will be 23 slash -1 for the first month of 2023, 23-2 for the second month, for February. So this is how it will work. Okay, and instead of going to the FTP store like you are going today, you will get it directly through the HTTPS in TED. That's the. But I think things become, at least in the syntax, they're simpler than what is today.
Okay, hopefully with the explanations and by looking again at the presentation, it will all become clearer. If not, feel free to come back to us. We will try to. Okay.
And sorry, Manuela, because
we have 3 minutes before 3. Okay.
Okay. So then
okay. So we can go back. Probably we will still have time for questions and answers after. And I see someone saying that this is great. So I assume that the replies were given. Okay, on the next question about historical data, whether we would go back to the limit of 10 years or longer. Again, for the time being, we are trying to move backwards. There is indeed this limit of 10 years for the data that is available directly in TED. And if there is a limit of 10 years, it's for a good reason, usually because the information published prior to these 10 years is not useful anymore. It's not up to date anymore. But we will look into it and we will see what can be done. If there is a need, we can consider it. But that's why we also asked you to indicate what your needs would be and why, so that we can assess the volume of work that is required against the interest that it may have. Then about the following question, whether there is a specific date or time frame for those using the FTP, which were apparently, according to the survey, 50%, so the time needed for the transition to HTTPS. As I said, when we came to the meeting this morning, the idea was that the FTP would be over by the moment the new TED website is put forward. We will see, according to the needs of the ones and the others, how we can provide for a proper transition period. And the final HTTPS service will be available with the new TED website. So the idea is that one stops, but there is something else to replace it. Okay? But we will look into it again to see how we can facilitate the transition. So we cannot give you a specific date now. We will do our best to accommodate according to the needs. And then will the RDF be available before the total discontinuation of the old TED schema? Yanis, back to you. And you have 1 minute, because then we will stop and we will pass the floor to Mark Christopher. And we will come back to the list of questions later on. So Yanis, if you can just give a quick reply.
Total discontinuation of the old TED schema, I don't understand the meaning of the question. So I understand the difference in times, but I don't understand the meaning. So RDFs will be available starting from the first day that we launch this service. Will all the RDFs be available before all the TED schemas disappear? The TED schemas will disappear in 10 years. So I don't see. Yes. The RDFs will be available before the total discontinuation of the old schema. If that's what you mean. Before the time when there is no notice that adheres to the old schema. Yeah. The notices, as far as I know, Manuela, you correct me if I'm wrong, are there for 10 years, right?
In principle, they are available in the TED website for 10 years, and okay, we keep them even for longer, but just not directly accessible online.
So RDFs will start being available in the next weeks, or anyway, by September. And then, okay, RDF will evolve itself, all right? The good thing, however, about RDF is that you don't need to take care about it on a notice by notice basis. That's the thing with RDF. You're going to have all the notices in the same format, every notice that is available there. So that's the idea.
Okay, thanks. I suggest that we stop replaying the questions now. We get back to the agenda. Mark Christopher Schmidt is going to give his presentation on the public procurement data space. And after, we will have still plenty of time to go through any questions that are still to be answered, or any other questions that you may think of in the meanwhile. So I would now pass the floor to Mark Christopher. I see that the presentation is already online, and I suppose that Mark Christopher is ready somewhere to take the floor.
Yes, Manuela.
That's great. Thank you. So, floor is yours.
Many thanks, Manuela. So today I will present you the upcoming procurement data space and show how this could become a very important data source for your services. So we can already go to the next slide to show you a little bit the background of the PPDS. As you all know, roughly 2 trillion euros public buyers in Europe spend every year on public procurement. That is roughly 14% of GDP. We have 250,000 buyers all over Europe, and they buy goods, services, and works in the area of education, infrastructure, social protection, health, waste, and energy. The issue that we have is that on EU level, we only have access available to 20% of the data, but we have, of course, a huge interest to have access to all of the data if possible. So with if you go to the next slide, with the PPDS, we want to harness, how we call it, the power of public data. We need to we want to ensure a wide uptake of strategic sustainable procurement in Europe. We want to use the PPDS to monitor EU funds, how this is done in the different member states. We will use as well the PPDS to identify potential collusion. We will support public buyers in providing information how they can procure better. Of course, the PPDS should help us to make data-driven policies. But for you, what is important is we want to support SMEs and as well data users. So we will provide some services as well on the PPDS. So if a company is interested, they can use our service also directly. But I expect that most of the companies will be relying on you as a data reuser, and therefore we will provide you more access. So if you go to the next slide, we show how it will work. We will have in the beginning the TED data as our main source. We already know that some member states are very eager to join the PPDS, and we will start to connect them to the PPDS by end of this year, beginning of next year. We will use exactly the same procurement ontology that Yannis was speaking about earlier. So as well, we will have the data available in the public procurement data space as linked data. We'll perform some data analytics checks on them, and then we will provide, and that is one of the main advantages of the PPDS itself, is it will provide for various user groups different kinds of analytics services. We expect that we will have not only policymakers, but public buyers, SMEs, NGOs, etc., making use of the public procurement data space. What we will do as well is for the publicly available data, we will provide data as we do already now on the open data portal. We will provide their CSV files, which is of course not so much of interest to you. We will provide over the open data portal, that is the current plan, a SparkQL endpoint. And it's like Yannis said, when you look at how a query looks like, it is like SQL, but a little bit different. And then you are able to retrieve through this interface directly the information in a format that you can use in your service. We will not have only data available from TED, but we expect to have as well data available from the member states. It is very important to notice that it is at the discretion of the member states who are sharing the data in the public procurement data space if they make this information publicly available. If it would be for me, it might be even possible that we will provide a GraphQL endpoint so that you are able to retrieve the data not only through SparkQL queries, but also through GraphQL. Because like SparkQL, you will be then able to retrieve the data in the data elements that you really need. One important aspect is E-forms, as it was said already earlier, are much more complex. So they are much more detailed than the current forms. You will see that the data that you will have to work with is much more based on lots than currently. And I think when you start to adjust your solution, you will have to see how you will cater for it. Just to give you one example, currently a deadline in a competition notice is based on the procedure. So you can only provide one deadline. With eForms, it is possible to have for each lot its own deadline. So you will have to adjust your solutions as well, not only the publications office and all the e-centers all over Europe, but I think you will have to adjust your system as well. When we go to the next slide, you will see a rough timeline. In this year, we will have a basic version of the PPDS ready. We will connect, we will retrieve the data from TED and make it available through the PPDS. We will then start, have a focus next year to have data available as well from the member states. Our intention here is to connect to the national portals to have up-to-date information. We will further develop any kind of analytics to provide better services from the PPDS to the Verizon end users. We will implement a quality dashboard. I think that is something that you are all aware of, that sometimes the data quality is not the best. And we hope that with this quality dashboard, we can help the member states to understand what are the data quality issues and to help them so that the data can be improved on the side of the buyer. In next year, I think as well, we will provide the access through the open data portal. Sometime next year, I can't be any more specific than this. And in 2025, we will connect the PPDS to other data sources like business registers, etc., to provide more services for the member states who share their data. And we want to, if possible, as well, have more data from other public procurement phases like electronic invoices. Yannis already said in his presentation that the e-procurement ontology does not only cover the notice part, but also catalog and other phases of the public procurement cycle. If you can go to the last slide. If you want to know more about the public procurement data space, we actually have communication on this. We have also a PPDS video and other links on the website that is linked in the presentation. And I saw that the presentations are being made available by the publications office. So with this, I'm already at the end of my presentation.
Thanks.
I hope that you could hear me well.
Yes, we could. At least I could hear you perfectly. So I assume that
Good.
everybody else as well, and nobody complained so far. So thank you very much for this short but very intense presentation on the PPDS. And I guess that we can go back to the questions, because I suppose that there would be questions in Slido. I would suggest that we pick them by the order, again, just not to lose track. And as soon as specific questions on the PPDS pop up, we will pass them on to you. Thank you. So first question or suggestion, I'm not really sure. It would be great if there is a listing of all the packages published in a month in the new HTTPS download, just like the FTP has. And there is an example provided that lists the packages for June 2023. I may be wrong, but I think that that's what we explained this morning. So maybe either George or Carmelo can comment on this.
Yes. We will have the same structure for that. As you can see in the current set, we have the same structure in HTTPS and FTP, and in the new tab, we will keep the same structure using this structure with the year and the months. So you will have this.
Okay, so same logic will apply. Maybe, Carmelo, you can also pick the next ones, which are very much related. When do we expect the HTTPS download in the format that is displayed there to be ready? And so that one can iterate the date daily. I don't know if either you or George can address this one.
Well, sorry, I will pick it up. Okay. So first question.
You have to come closer to the mic, otherwise we cannot hear you. You sound very far away.
It's killing us. So for the first question, when do you expect the HTTPS download to be in the following format? From the day that the new TED will be live, okay? Because with the new TED, as Carmelo explained, said already, and Manuela iterated a couple of times, there will be no FTP. It will be this way to retrieve the packages. Which of course, in my presentation, I said that this go live will be somewhere in the middle of October, but yeah, when we have the definite day, certainly would be communicated to everybody. For the second question, so we iterate the date daily. Actually, as I said, the last number that we see there, it is not a date, it's the OJS number, okay?
Number,
so
yes.
it's the first OJS of 2023. And the date, as I said, can be retrieved by getting the release calendar of the year. Because, for example, in 23, the first OJS was published on the 2nd of January of 23, because that was the first working day. So there, you just iterate, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, up until 252, 53, depending on how many OJSs will be published within the specific year. And with the release calendar, you know when its OJS is published, which date, let's say, okay? So that's how it works. And yeah, okay, not on public holidays, for sure. And that's why the release calendar will help on this, because it's the OJS, as you know, it's not published during the weekend, and it's not published also on the official holidays. Okay.
Yeah. I would like to add something else. Maybe the structure just after the blah blah will change. Maybe. Because in the current TED, the structure is not like that. And as you know, we are in a beta version in the TED 2.0, and we are in testing period. So we can adjust also the structure of this package. So it is not the final structure of the URL.
Oh, thank you. I think you replied to those questions and the comments as well. Now there is a question for Yanis. Is there a sample for RDF, or for how RDF will look like? If this is the question, I can tell you yes, that there are samples. Where can you find the samples? I will leave it to Yanis.
Yeah, so all the work that we're doing for the semantics web service is currently public on GitHub. So if you know where our GitHub is, you go there and you find there are 2 10 RDF projects there. One is for the mappings and the other is pipeline. you need to look at the project with the mappings, and you will find RDF files there. I can give you a link also in the chat. So yeah, you can find RDF files there. Unfortunately, today I cannot give you much more support in documents, but as I promised, soon we will have our work formally released. Okay.
Okay.
Manuela, back to you.
Yeah, back to me. So the next question, Mark Christopher, I think it's for you because you named 250,000 buyers in your presentation. So what is the source of the number of buyers?
Yes, it's a number that we once calculated some time ago. If this is still the real number, we actually don't know, and I hope that with through the procurement data space, we will get a much better figure, a much more concrete figure. We know that it was in France, where they said they have already 50% of it. So it was calculated some time ago. I hope that this answers your question.
It sounds like it answers the question. Maybe you want to pick the other one because it talks about policies as well. Is there any plan to implement the solution? Okay, I will let you read it.
Is there any plan to implement a solution that will help track tenders that could be categorized into different policy objectives, such as green, digital transformation, green? With eForms, we'll be able to better categorize procurement procedures. We see that some member states, eForms actually provides fields for that. And we know that some member states will make it mandatory to indicate for every procurement procedure if a procedure is green, social, or environmentally friendly or innovative. And so next year, I think we'll be having more information about this. For cohesion policies, something that will change compared to the current forms. In the current forms, the public buyer can provide text fields for the EU funded projects. With eForms, it is possible, or they have to, if it is EU funded, they have to select one of the programs. So we will be able to better understand to which programs this procurement procedure is linked to. Indeed, it's a problem currently. And for the digital transition, that is, I think, very vague. We will have some indicators in the procurement data space to say, for example, about transparency. The procurement documents are accessible directly. We will provide trends on certain indicators that could provide some information on this, but I think this is a very vague topic. Okay. The next one I will take all on again as well. You mentioned that the deadline field will be moved to the lot level. Is there a list detailing the signal textual change of this kind? I think you really need to look into eForms itself, to look into the SDK. What you can see is that there will be quite some changes on the implementation side on yours that you have to take on. You can have a look as well as a kind of but it's a very high level information. It could already help you is the extended annex. It's an Excel sheet which shows all the attributes. It's not complete. So you would really need to go to the SDK that was talked about earlier. I look into the next one. I think it would be good.
I guess the next ones are back to us as Publications Office.
Okay.
It's about the transition period, about closing the FTP, when the HTTPS is going to be available, and so on. So as we have said already on numerous occasions, but I can say it again, the idea when we came to this meeting was that the FTP would be closed once the new TED website would be available, and therefore the HTTPS would be available for download of packages. We understood from the discussion today that there is a need to foresee a transition period. There is a need for you to be able to adapt as well. So it's not something that can be done just like that. We cannot give you an answer today as to exactly when the change will take place. We are all working in IT business with IT developments. So we all know that sometimes we expect things to happen on a certain date, and it's not really possible for this to happen on a certain date. Our expectation was that the new TED website would go live in August. That's what we announced when we met in September. We know today that it's not going to be August. It's likely going to be October. And George even said that, okay, we may even consider going live a little bit later, depending on how the tests that we are currently doing will work out. So I would love to have a date for ourselves, for our own sakes. I'm afraid I cannot give a date. Whatever date I give today is not a realistic one. Okay. As soon as we have the certainty of the date, we will certainly provide it. We will share it. We will make sure that it is going to be known. Okay, that's a guarantee. As for the transition period, as for making sure that you will have enough time to test things, as to make sure that the transition between the usage of the FTP to the usage of the HTTPS and the use of the APIs and everything else is going to be done smoothly, we will look into it. As soon as this meeting ends, we will look into the possibilities. And again, we will try to provide for something that is realistic and that is useful. As I said, we are here to provide a service in the same way that you are there to provide services. It's not in anybody's interest that all these services all of a sudden stop. So we will make our utmost to provide all the information in due time, and if possible, the appropriate transition measures, environments, and everything else. But as you will understand, we cannot give you an answer today. I could tell you, yes, of course, it's going to be a double environment and so on, but it would not be serious. Okay, we will look into it. We will make sure that we will be able to provide something. But give us some time to think, and we will get back to you. So I think with this, I replied to both questions from Samuel and from Anonymous, and I think that I also replied to some of the questions that have been popping up in the chat in the same line. Okay, bear with us. We will try to provide the best possible transition in everybody's interest. Okay. Then I see that there are still two questions. One that asks if, I suppose is RDF the HTTPS download URL we are talking about? I don't really think so, but maybe Yanis, you can take this one.
The HTTPS download URL that we were talking about, if I understand correctly, the reference is the thing that Carmelo was talking about that will replace the FTP. RDS, I guess, is a misspelling of RDF. And so, if I interpret the question correctly, no. The HTTPS download URL that Carmelo was talking about earlier is not for RDF files. RDF files, I will send you a link just to have a sample, although I think it will be more confusing than you now. I'll just give you a link to an RDF file. It is not in XML, it's in Turtle format, but it's RDF. So RDF is not necessarily XML. There are different formats. If you look at the link that I'm just sending there, that's an RDF file. And you'll find more there in that repository. At first glance, it will scare you, but when you understand how this works, you will see that it is much more straightforward for a machine to process this. So yeah, I hope this covers the question. If I understood it well, if my interpretation of the question was correct, I hope this covers the answer.
Okay, thanks, Yadis. I see that there is still one last question about whether questions regarding FTP can be skipped. Well, they cannot be skipped, but indeed there is an interest, and I think that we have made the message clear. And I think this is the last one, the last question that we got currently on Slido. If I look into the chat, what I see is indeed a lot of questions that relate to the RDF, to the FTP, and to when we would be able to provide for dates and for further information. So for dates, clearly, as soon as we have dates, we will be giving them to you. The current indicative date that we have is somewhere in September, there will be a new TED website, and somewhere in August, there will be a parallel run that will start. As soon as we have more information, we will share it. And as soon as we clarify the possibilities to make it possible for you to access some kind of test environment where you can test how you will be able to retrieve data in the future, we will certainly do that as well. Okay, we will try to make information available as it comes. That's clear. And as I said, it's in everybody's interest that this transition goes as smoothly as it can be. If you can, yeah.
I think you said somewhere mid of September, and it's actually mid of October that we said, okay, that they will have the new TED website.
Yes,
okay.
It's October. If I said September, sorry, I'm starting to mix up my dates. So new TED website somewhere mid of October. Exactly when, we don't know, but in principle, mid of October. We will have the parallel run starting during the summer. We cannot give you an exact date yet because we are still testing the system, and we cannot put something on parallel run until it works properly. Okay. In principle, there should be around 2 months of parallel run. We will see in which way during these 2 months of parallel run, we will make it possible for you to test, to check, and we will also see in which way we will be able to extend or not this period. Okay. So this is the message that we would like to pass. We really want it to work, and that's the reason why we invited you here today, and that's the reason why we would like to have your feedback and your suggestions and everything else through the help desk, as I said, because it's easier to follow up. It's easier not to get lost into someone's mailbox, and we can keep track and make sure that that things are addressed. As there seems to be no other questions in Slido, I think it's time for us to launch our own questions in Slido. So I see that Mariela is starting. So I think we have 3 questions for you to reply to us, please. So Mariela, go ahead.
Thank you very much. In the meantime, I have put the link in the chat, so please find it in the chat. Read it. And as we said, since we aim at keeping in contact with you, we now ask you, what is the best way of informing you about future changes related to the use of TED data? Would you prefer to receive news through newsletter, website news, social media, other dedicated messages in the FTP? And it seems clear the vast majority of you is very keen on receive information through the newsletter, 65% at the moment, increasing. 18% dedicated message in the FTP, and also the 13% still prefer the website news. So thank you for your feedback. We can move forward. Next question. When do you plan to start adapting your systems to reforms? It's a very important, relevant question to us. I already started, well, apparently, the vast majority of you, 64% for the time being, more or less. Before October 2023, the 20% at the moment, just the 10% of you still does not know. We conclude with the 71% already started adapting your systems. Interesting, thank you. We can go ahead, please. This is our last question. We address you before thanking you. How useful were the presentations? So please rank them from the most useful to less useful. Place your answer, please. I see that many of you are placing your answers. Looking forward to finding out the results. Thank you for the moment. Manuela, please, you can go ahead if you want. I hand over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mariela. So, time to close, a bit ahead of schedule at the end of the day. So, thank you all again for dropping by, for asking questions, for making suggestions. As we said from the very beginning, we are here to provide a service. So we are interested to understand what the needs are so that we can address them appropriately. We are here to manage change, and there is a lot of change coming up. Between the e-forms and the new TED, there is enough change. Plus, the bonus is like the TED semantic web services and the PPDS. So there is a lot on our plate that we are trying to deal with. We have taken good note of the main issues that you raised, and we do understand the need to prepare for transition. So we will reflect about how to do it. We took note also of the needs about making documentation available, making guides available. We will see what we can do. Again, no promises that we will not keep, but at least the promise that we will look into it and see how we can make documentation, proper documentation available as up to date as possible in a way that is not deceiving to anybody. Because it's probably easy to provide for documentation, but then if the documentation is not kept updated, there is not much point in having it there. So again, we will try as much as possible to look into all this to see how we can provide for a proper transition, and we will keep you informed through the means that are at our disposal, be it the website itself, FTP, the newsletter, or even by simply using your emails that you have provided us when registering to the workshop, because at the end of the day, it might be the best way to actually reach you individually to say where we are and what you can expect from us. So I will close now. So thanks again for your present and your active participation. Thanks to the team that is behind scenes making sure that it all happens. We've seen Laura and Mariela. I think Marketa is also there. So thank you all for being there. Thanks, of course, to the ones that took the floor, George, Carmelo, Yanis, and Mark Christopher. As said, we are here to do our best. We will see how we can indeed put in place a kind of a communication channel that is effective and serves the needs of everybody, knowing that there are many people with different needs and we have to cater for all of them. So again, thank you very much and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.